Hello, YouTubers. I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Gear. Okay, and I'm your host, guitarist Denis Taaffe, and I'm in my home studio. Now, I haven't done a video in a while, and there's a good reason for that. It's basically setting up for this particular video. And have we got a stocking stuffer for you? Looks like Christmas came early. Okay. Alright. So, where do I begin? Okay. I would say, of all the pedals they make and things, I would say my main pedal, and my favorite pedal, in fact, is the Eventide H9 pedal. We can take a look at it here. Okay, so it's a little white pedal, and it's kind of a multi-effect pedal. Has, delays, choruses, reverbs, pitch shifter, on and on and on. It does just about everything. And what's really great about it is the computer application for it called H9 Control. And it's just superbly laid out, very easy, to create presets and to manage the pedal and that kind of thing. So the Eventide H9 is my favorite pedal. And my friends are actually quite aware of this. However, they are what I would refer to as TC fanboys. And I mean by that, they really love TC Electronics pedals. And for good reason. I mean, they sound great. So, basically there was a big interaction online between me and my friends, between the Eventide H9 and the newly released, it's been, newly, about a year, the TC Electronics Plethora X5. Now you can take a look at it here. So they would always mention the tone prints that are available for the TC Electronics pedals. And basically the Plethora X5 is a really neat idea. It's a compact pedal, and basically what it is you have 5 slots, okay, 5 little screens. Each one represents basically a little pedal, a different pedal, so in other words, you can have a compressor, a delay, a reverb, a looper, a chorus, so on and so on. And then you can have 127 different boards with different pedal layouts, right? And it's all built in to the Plethora X5. However, me being a Eventide fanboy, right, I considered it pure heresy. And they suggested I try the TC Electronics Plethora. Right? For me, it was trying to get me to turn to the dark side. There was definitely a disturbance in the force. So, what to do? Well, finally, one of my friends actually got a TC Electronics Plethora X5. And that's probably where the main disturbance in the force came from. Right? Prior to that, Eventide ruled the wasteland and had basically a, functioning Death Star. In Star Wars terms, Now, I consider my friend who got this plethora, he's kind of like the emperor, of the dark side. And to try to turn me to the dark side, he actually loaned me the TC Electronics plethora to try. And I was wise to his tricks. I could see that I was trying to be swayed over the TC Electronic dark side. So what did I do? Well, I got to try it. I had to see what it sounded like and that kind of thing. And we can take a look at that here. Okay, so basically, because this wasn't my plethora, and it was loaned to me, I just created one board, okay, with 5 effects: an octaver, a delay, 2 reverbs, and a looper. And I discovered that this combination worked really great. And first I'll play you without the plethora at all. And it sounds like this. And then I tried it with just one reverb that I created here. And so we'll turn that on. Sounds like this. Okay, and I thought, well, that sounds pretty good. But, and I think this is where the real magic of the TC Electronics Plethora X5 is that you can actually stack multiple reverbs. And this is a Hall of Fame 2 reverb patch, if you like, effect, and you can actually stack them. So here I'm going to turn on another one on top of the reverb I already had, and now it sounds like this. And then we can loop that. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'll turn on the looper here. So there it starts looping, and that's the looper, just the Plethora X5. Turn off the reverbs and turn on the octaver and get kind of of a bass line type thing. We could do like, I don't know. Turn on one of the reverbs with the octaver and get this kind of sound, kind of a... Okay, and now we can loop that bass line. An overdub. Now we could turn on the octaver, the delay, the two reverbs. You got maybe a little... So now let's do an overdub there. Turn off the octaver. I turned off the delay there. Okay. Or, let's just have the delay on here. We'll play, I don't know. Let's do... So in other words, it's very easy to create kind of loops, you know. It's great for coming up with ideas and for just general looping for that matter. I've exaggerated the reverbs a bit so that you could hear what it can do. If we only turn on one reverb, it'll be a little less. And here we'll do the same thing, kind of just loop that idea. Okay, and I really like this because they're very simple to set up, and it's great to for coming up with ideas and things. So you could try different bass lines, for example. Reverb off of it, and then just kind of loop that bass line. Here's that delay and reverb just on the guitar, so we can do this kind of. Okay, so when I tried the plethora, at first I found that the sounds were kind of basic, you know. Don't get me wrong, they were very good. Okay, but kind of basic. It's the best word to describe it, you know. Whereas the H9 can be anyway, have some very unusual sounds and things, you know, very epic kind of sounds. I found that the plethora was much more hands-on and very much as if you just had, you know, a few little pedals, you know, to play with here. But as I started to kind of dive into it and mess around with it, I discovered some of its real strengths. Okay? And one of those is when you take a reverb, which sounds good, sounds very good, but you can put a reverb in one slot. Remember, you have 5 slots. When you put a reverb in one slot, you can put that same reverb effect in another slot and stack them together. Basically as if you were running, you know, through 2 reverb pedals. And there I discovered, wow, it really comes alive. And then when you add all the tone prints, you know, and there are tons of them, and you can make your own on top of that. I think there's like 75 tone prints per pedal. You know, I mean, that's a huge number of tone prints. You know, usually when you got a pedal, you know, a little, whatever it was, a flashback or Hall of Fame and so on, I mean, you basically had maybe 3 tone prints, maybe less than that. So, as I played with it, I saw its real strength, you know, and that is the simplicity of it, you know, from moving effects, you know, in different slots without having to rewire it and things. So in other words, you could have a delay before the reverb or a delay after the reverb, that kind of thing. And then the looper on top of that, right? And I found that the looper, granted, it's very simple, okay? But it sounds great and it really does the job nicely. Now, you know, without diving into it, you know, you don't really have a reverse effect or octave, you know, where it drops everything in octave. However, if you use a tone print and use another looper slot, you could actually do that as well. It does have a reverse, those kinds of things. But for me, you know, for one thing, it wasn't mine, you know, so I wasn't going to, you know, go too deep in creating presets and things, but I did want to try it. And so I set that up and found it really exceptional as far as creating loops and that kind of thing. And I'll tell you, if I was to play a coffee house gig and I didn't want to bring my entire pedal board, you know, which is quite large, the little plethora would be really great for that. And the sound quality I found very, very good. Does it sound as good as the H9? Personally, they're very, very, very close. I think the H9 might sound a little bit better. But that's because I've been using the H9 and I have it set up just the way I want. You know, I'm sure over time I'll find that the plethora, you know, sounds just as good, in fact, you know, but here I'm just kind of, you know, randomly trying out different things, and you know, this is the kind of thing. Here's what I noticed with the plethora, very important. It isn't really a plug-and-play kind of pedal, right? I mean, you can get some basic sounds and things, but to really see what it's capable of and the power of it, you really have to spend a lot of time tweaking and things. And it's not difficult, just time consuming. But for me personally, I find that very enjoyable. It's a lot of fun seeing what you can come up with and get kind of honing in sounds that you really like. In fact, for example, if you were on Christmas holidays at home, and had some time, the plethora would be so perfect as far as really getting to know it, creating tone prints, creating presets, and those kinds of things. Okay? Now, this is part one of this video. And it isn't really a demonstration of the plethora. Okay? That'll come in part two. But there's a reason for this. Because after trying the plethora, right, I saw that it was really great. And one thing I did, right, which is, kind of forbidden, but I didn't care, I did it anyway. And that is, I integrated the plethora with the H9 from Eventide. And the sound, the ambient sounds, oh my goodness, unbelievable. I mean, I just scratched the surface to see if it would work, how it would sound, whether it would sound bad or not necessarily bad, but how it would react to feel and that kind of thing. And I found that it integrated beautifully. So if you have an existing pedal board and you're considering a plethora, besides being a great standalone multi-effects unit, that's small, compact, you can throw it in a gig bag and go, it can also integrate into your big pedal board with existing pedals and things. It even has an effects loop, which, to be honest, I didn't even try yet. Okay. Now, I guess this would be a good time to talk about cost. Okay? It's quite an expensive pedal. Not quite as expensive as the H9. Okay? But pretty close. Okay? I mean, we're talking new, usually between the $400 to $500 range. Easily. Now you say, oh my goodness, that's super expensive. However, let's keep in mind, right, that one pedal like this, and it's not even stereo, it doesn't have MIDI, right? No stereo ins and outs, no MIDI control or nothing, right? Well, that pedal alone is $100, right? And you're certainly getting more than 4 or 5 pedals with this plethora. So, in reality, it is actually a huge bargain. Wow, who would have guessed, right? For that kind of price. And I'll run through it here, but let me tell you, there were certain sounds that were just exceptional. Exceptionally good. Right? In the plethora. So that was very disturbing to me. The octaver that is in the plethora is worth the price of admission alone. It is unbelievably awesome, really. Sounds great. You can emulate bass and things. so simply. But beyond that, you know, I discovered it's polyphonic and so on. It's just exceptional. And I also found the delays and reverbs exceptional. You know, I mean, those are the ones that jumped out at me. And the looper. You know, I have to give it to TC Electronics because Eventide has a looper. And while it's not bad, it's kind of cumbersome and a little hard to use, you know. Whereas the TC Electronics looper is just so simple. It's just boom, there, you know. And keep in mind the plethora, you know, they always complain, well, it doesn't have a user manual. And, you know, I think that'll come in time, but I found it so simple to use and to figure out. I mean, you know, it's actually quite simple, you know, so I really like the simplicity of it and the sound of it. And for the price, while it's kind of expensive, it replaces a bunch of pedals easily, especially if they're TC Electronics pedals, you know. Now, one of those pedals that it has in it is the Hall of Fame reverb pedal. And it's very similar to this. Okay? This is a TC Electronics Hall of Fame 2 reverb 2x4. Right? And it's basically kind of 4 Hall of Fame reverb pedals in one thing, you know. And it's got MIDI and it's got inputs and outputs and things. Okay? And here you've got a whole bunch of tone prints and things that you can try out, as well as some that are built in. Well, this is exactly what's in the plethora, right? And for not much more than this pedal, you get everything else. You get the looper, you get a flashback delay. And what's really cool is that you can stack these. In other words, you can, if you want to use 2 delays or 3 delays, you know, you just put them in the slots, right? And that's it. It's built in, you know. So it's actually much more, and can do, obviously, much more than this can. So, the dilemma is this. I was kind of sold on the plethora X5. And I couldn't tell my friends that, right? After being an Eventide fanboy, you know, I couldn't let them know that it may be turning to the dark side. You know. So, let's put it this way. In Star Wars terms, if the Eventide H9 is the equivalent of Yoda, okay, well then the plethora X5 is kind of like a baby Yoda, see? You know, and I mean, that's how I view them. Okay. They're actually, in a way, kind of very similar, you know, and I like them both, you know. The Eventide, you know, H9 I really, really like, and I like the layout. It's just very simple to use with the Bluetooth and, you know, the iOS app, you know, or, you know, it can be run on a PC or a Mac and so on. Basically the H9 control application. And I think it's better than the plethora application by far as simplicity goes, you know. However, the plethora, you know, for its simplicity and the way it's laid out and things, is excellent as well. It's a little different, you know, as far as tone prints and things. And I think if you spend the time with it, you know, well, anyone would love that pedal. you know, and can get the sounds that you want from it, you know, without a doubt. But don't expect to just plug it in and go and have, you know, your favorite sounds dialed in, you know. I mean, it has some, don't get me wrong, but to really get the power of it, you know, spending time tweaking it and that kind of thing is really exceptional. And of course, you always come up with things that you hadn't thought of. So, well, my friend suggested that maybe that I sell this pedal and buy a plethora, you know. Now, I felt that I was being verbally attacked at that point, you know, kind of like I had been hit by a lightsaber. But it's actually was something to consider, you know. And my friends were nice enough to let me try it, you know, which is really nice of them. And I'm glad I did because I really like it. You know, I already like this pedal. I think it's great. I love the reverbs in this thing. But I also like the sound of the plethora, and it has pretty much this pedal, and it is very similar, in fact. You know, the Hall of Fame 2 reverb. Well, I went ahead and as it turns out, they're having a, you know, Black Friday sales and things. And so I thought, well, okay, I don't know, I'll order one, you know, and use Easy Pay. And, you know, if that works out, then I'll have a plethora. And I actually ordered one, and it's on its way. Now, even though I've tried it, I'm still a little hesitant to sell the Hall of Fame 2 reverb that I really like, you know, for reverbs. However, you have the exact same reverbs in the plethora, so it's kind of redundant, you know. And so that would bring the cost down, of course, of the plethora if I sold the Hall of Fame 2 reverb. But listen, I like the plethora well enough that even though I hadn't completed my training, you know, I went ahead and ordered one. Now, there are a few issues with the Plethora X5 that have not been addressed. One of them is future updates. And listen, the last update it had was about a year ago. Okay, and it was version 1.2. And it added some extra pedals and bug fixes and better MIDI implementation, you know, that kind of thing. Since then, there hasn't been another update. Concerns me a little bit. And some people claim, well, the plethora is abandonware. In other words, they're not going to update it ever again. And I've had pedals like that, you know, especially from like Line 6 and so on, where they just weren't going to update it anymore. However, with that said, even if they don't, you know, it's very functional as it is, you know, so it's not something that would be a deal breaker if they didn't update it. However, if they do come out with another update, well, that would just be icing on the cake at this point. So I've been trying out my friend's plethora, and I'm sure he'd love to have it back. In part 2 of this video, when it arrives and things, we'll have a proper unboxing and demonstration, those kinds of things. So I was, you know, at first I was very skeptical. Very skeptical, you know. But as I play with it, I realized, wow, it's just really nice to be able to basically have, you know, pretty much your entire pedal board in this little white box, you know, and that it integrates with your bigger pedal board, you know, if you want it to. And then when you add the MIDI functions and so on, it's kind of a no-brainer, you know. Really, at this point anyway, highly recommend it. You know, I just can't imagine you wouldn't be happy with it. Now, there are a few things to keep in mind. You know, it has an octaver, phaser, so on and so on, reverb, delays, and so on. What it does not have, it has a compressor, by the way, and a noise gate as well. What it does not have is any kind of a distortion pedal or that kind of thing. And that seemed to be a turnoff for very many people. And remember, this is kind of a digital pedal, you know, as from what I understand, TC Electronics doesn't have any digital distortion pedals. Okay, they're all kind of analog. So, we will see. Perhaps in a future update they will have one. And just from using my friends here, I have to say that it's a real joy to be able to do the kind of looping stuff that I like to do in such a simple setup, and I don't have to have my big pedal board, you know, that has separate pedals for everything and big huge looper and all those things. And I found it very convenient, if you like, to have it all in this little pedal. Now, I'll have to decide how to pay for this pedal. And unfortunately, this puts this pedal at risk of being sold. I'm sorry. I'm not sure that it's very pleased. However, it is a TC Electronic pedal as well, right? Kind of a cousin of the plethora. So I finally had to tell my friends that I've succumbed to the dark side and went ahead and ordered a plethora as well. Okay. And I knew within an hour of trying it that, hey, this is worthwhile for sure. You know, sound quality wise and so on. So there you go. That's where it stands now. Okay, I've tried out my friend's plethora. Thought it was an excellent unit. Definitely worthwhile. So much so that I ordered one myself. And that's where we're at right now. Now, unfortunately, the fate of the Hall of Fame 2 reverb pedal is in question at this point. You know, whether to keep it or sell it. Now this pedal, though, just does reverbs. And it's a Hall of Fame 2 reverb, which is exactly what is in the plethora. You know, plus the plethora does all these other things. So it seems a little redundant to keep both. And quite frankly, I can't afford to keep both, for sure. You know. In fact, you know, the way I saw it was, you know, if I didn't have easy pay, you know, where you make 3 payments or whatever, however number of payments, you know, without interest and so on, and you get the pedal now. You know, they call it pay as you play. Ouch. You know. And I mean, I've done that in the past. And you know what I discovered? It's very seductive. But I'll tell you, the easy payments, they're not all that easy. I And when it actually comes time to it, and it's time to pay the bill, you know, then you discover, hey, wait a minute, this isn't easy at all. Not easy on your wallet anyway. So, you have to be very careful because it's very seductive and very seems so simple, you know. And I've seen, you know, $2,000-$3,000 amps, and oh, well, it's only 12 payments of $200, or let's say, you know. But I'll tell you what, $200 a month, every month, you know, for however long it is, you know, especially if it's 12 payments, well, that's an entire year. Ouch. You know. So if you do plan to use Easy Pay, keep that in mind, you know, and really think it out ahead of time. That's something you don't want to mess up and not be able to pay and that kind of thing, you know, because later when you want to use Easy Pay, you won't be able to if you mess up and discover you can't afford what it is you're trying to buy and that kind of thing, you know. And obviously for everybody it's different, but for me I really had to think it out, and it was kind of a planned ahead of time, you know, because I really do like the Eventide H9, and I find the Plethora very similar, you know. They're not quite the same though. And for me, it would serve two different purposes, you know. One, it was really for kind of small coffee house gigs and things where you don't want to bring your entire pedal board. You know, it'd be nice to have just a little, you know, plethora here, and that's all you would need. That's it. What I didn't expect was that you can integrate it into your larger pedal board as well. You know, including the H9, so you could get the kind of best of both worlds there, you know. And that's plenty of processing power, without a doubt, you know. Now, there are some other parts of it, like going direct and things, I haven't even tried, you know. And I haven't even really messed with the MIDI part of it yet and things, you know, because it was my friend's, and I don't want to change his settings and so on, you know. So that's going to be really great, and what I'm hoping is over the holidays to be able to, you know, really hone that down and come up with sounds that I really like and that kind of thing, and set it up and that kind of thing, you know. So I'll keep you posted, and we'll see. You know, it was quite a surprise to me that I ordered one. You know, but I just really liked it. You know, the sounds were great. And listen, one other thing. For example, I remember a Podgo. Okay, and it was okay. You know, wasn't all that big a fan of it though. And it had, you know, amp emulation and so on. But what I discovered is that now that one was very different from the Eventide H9. You know, because here with the Eventide H9, you're still kind of playing through your amp. You know what I mean? And the feel is there and everything. With the Podgo, it kind of takes that over, and the amp feel is gone. You know. Completely, so I really didn't like that style of pedal. And it was the same way kind of like with the Zoom multi-effects pedals are kind of that way as well. And I don't know if that's just because of the amp modeling or what have you, but I did not find that on the Plethora. The Plethora very much can integrate with your amp, you know, and it still feels like you're playing your amp. You know, whatever amp that is. So for that reason, I really liked it as well. Alright, so stay posted, and we'll do part 2 when it arrives, and things. Let's go from there. And we'll also find out the results of the fate of the TC Electronics Hall of Fame 2 pedal. Okay? Alright, very good. Hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving and so on. Alright, see you next time. Okay, bye.